leader of the proscribed IPOB, was arrested and extradited to Nigeria last Sunday. And at that same Tuesday, he was going to appear before a federal high court in the Federal Capital Territory on an 11-count charge to continue, of course, his trial on the various allegations. So that's the subject matter for our conversation this morning, as we have two guests with us to discuss this, one in the studio and then the other, of course, joining us via Zoom. Kirian?
All right, now joining us here in Abuja to talk more on Nnamdi Kanu's rearrest is Johannes Toby Wojules. I hope I got that correctly.
Johannes Toby Wojuola.
Wojuola, okay, that's okay. All right, Wojuola, curator, Abuja Shapers Community. It's a pleasure to have you here this morning.
It's my pleasure, thank you.
All right, and joining us via Zoom is Major Gabriel Adiofiku, retired immediate past Secretary General, Army, Navy, and Air Force Officers Association. And of course, he's also Development Management and Security Consultant. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's begin with Johannes Toby Wojuola. Well, what's your take on what has happened? We know that the matter is sub judice, so we're not getting to the substance of the charges that Nnamdi Kanu, of course, is now facing at the High Court. But the sheer fact of his having been a fugitive for nearly 4 years and his rearrest and extradition to the country all seem to have been done very quietly.
Well, in the nature of this kind of events, we will not expect noise from the security agencies who will carry out the whole arrest and working with other security agencies across the world, tracking his movements, being able to, effect an arrest in another country. All of this is not going to be something that will be done, with knowledge on the media. In fact, it's even better that way that it is silent, because you're trying to track someone so that he doesn't even know that he's being tracked. Summarily, for me, what we have seen, the picture we have here is a situation where we're seeing that the arm of the law is long enough to catch anyone. And justice may grind slow, but it grinds surely. We have a person who has evaded justice for, like you said, almost over 4 years. And at some point in time, it had become a conversation of, can't the government bring this man back? He's causing mayhem from wherever he is, releasing tapes, calling for violence, leading to a lot of chaos that was experienced in some parts of the country. And it was becoming a situation of, when would justice happen, or will justice even ever happen? But we can see that the silence of government, the silence of the security agencies when these questions were being bandied, on the media space, when would justice be achieved on this matter, did not mean that they were not working. To be able to make this extradition work, I don't think it was a one-off process. It wasn't a one-day thing. It's something that must have been ongoing for a lot of time. There would have been a lot of engagements with foreign governments. The intelligence agencies would have worked with other colleagues in other countries, talked with other security agencies in other countries. It happens, but it's a very unique thing across the world. It's been the Attorney General had even mentioned, it wasn't just, it was a collaborative effort. And this is also something that we were impressed to see. For security to actually work, we need to see more collaborative efforts between not just local security agencies, but international security agencies, because crime today has left, is not within a single territory now. It's extraterritorial. One crime is being committed from, just like we have with the terrorist activities, happening in the Northeast. The terrorists would attack from a place in Chad, come into a border town in Nigeria and go back. So criminality is extraterritorial now. And if we must deal with criminality, we must have extraterritorial collaborations. And I'm sure that extraterritorial collaborations are what have brought the fruit that we are seeing here. Also important in this conversation is the fact that we are seeing that he was brought in on Sunday, was taken to court on Tuesday. That is processes. Let the courts decide. It's not a dictatorship. It's not an autocracy. We have systems. We have judicial systems. He has committed a crime according to the charges that have been brought before the courts. The courts should decide if those charges indeed are true, and let him defend himself. This is the rule of law, and it's a very, very commendable process we have seen so far.
All right, let's go over to Major Gabriel Alufiku, who has joined us via Zoom. Sir, of course, you've already had this successful rearrest of Nnamdi Kanu. What is your take on the method, applied by the security agencies in Nigeria to be able to make that happen? All right, we seem to be having difficulties in the connections to Major Gabriel Alufiku. So let's return to the studio here, where we still have Toby Wojuola. Now, he is here, and of course he's going to face the law, as rightly pointed out. But what does that do in terms of easing tension and other forms of criminality in the southeast of Nigeria, where of course is where he has ESN as an offshoot of IPOB?
I wouldn't even limit my answer to the southeastern parts of Nigeria. It's a message to the whole country. You see, one of the reasons why we see disorder and chaos is because there's a sense of impunity, a sense that I can do a thing that is wrong and go scot-free with it. I can do a thing that is wrong and jump bail, go to another country and chill. But what this message sends is that criminality will not be allowed to fester, and criminality will not be rewarded with permission to do whatever you want to do. Anybody now who is thinking of subverting the Nigerian state or the Nigerian government has listened to a clear message that is unwritten, a message that says, whatever you do, you will be held accountable for it. You cannot go scot-free if you think that you're going to want to raise a criminal network, a criminal gang, escape accountability and responsibility for the actions of those gangs, escape accountability for tension in the environment. No, you will face the law, and whatever the outcome will be the consequences of your actions. That message alone is already being received across the country. It's not just even in the Southwest. Even in the Southwest, where we have a group coming out to say they are clamoring for some form of agitation and all of that, that's a message to them that if you adopt any means of violence against the Nigerian state, you will face justice. It may not happen immediately. It may not be as soon as it happens, but indeed the law will catch up with you. And that message alone is the message that calms people down, that I cannot go scot-free, that I must be held accountable for my actions. And when you are conscious of being held accountable for your actions, then you have it in your mind to do the right things at the right time. So I'm very sure that the groups or the people who were receiving his message would have a rethink, would also understand that illegality or wrongdoing has its consequences, and would come to terms with some of the messages that are being put out there by the leaders in the region, saying that this is not how to go about airing your grievances. There are many more respectable, more amiable ways by which any grievances can be sorted out. And I hope that this message is well understood and received.
Okay, thank you very much, Johannes Toby. I'm just wondering if Major Adofiko's Zoom is back. Well, we understand that it's still not connecting. You were talking about the power, the determination, and also the reach of a state to act, as we have seen in what is playing out. But obviously, there's been a difference in tactics between what we are seeing in 2021 and what happened in 1984. I'm here referring to the Umaru Diko incident when there was an attempt to ferry him from London to Nigeria to answer to allegations of corruption following the collapse of the Second Republic. Again, as you have also indicated, yes, this was a very silent operation. And I made a point while we're having a newspaper review that the Attorney General of the Federation was not in a celebratory mode. It seemed deadpan when he just announced that, look, this fugitive has been rearrested. He's going to face justice. You made a point that, of course, this sends a message. But what kind of message does it actually send? Does it also seek to compromise the right of persons to air grievances?
No, far from that. Even in the bid to avoid any subjudice or talking on the substance of the matter itself, I think where there's a principle in law where there's a wrong, there should be a remedy. Where there's an allegation of crime, the very fact that the state allows it to fester and does not hold those responsible for it gives a leeway to other persons who feel like, okay, this is permissible, to go ahead and do it. So it's what we have seen here is government ensuring accountability of the justice system. That we cannot allow a system where people would perpetrate criminality against the state and go scot-free. Now, when we look at it more broadly and going beyond the borders of Nigeria, the reason we have the Interpol, and which was part of the collaborative efforts that we saw that brought about the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, is because governments across the world understand that criminality, like I said, is not limited to your borders. And the people can commit a crime here and run away and escape there. So there's now a consensus that we must help each other if we must fight crime. But now, the Interpol does not just throw its borders open or throw its capacity open to arrest anybody that any country brings. Or Nigeria says, oh, arrest that person. And no, there's a process. Two key things must be submitted. The full identity of the person, name, facial details, everything, all the things that you know about the person. Then the second, which is very critical, is the judicial, this is more or less judicial notice. You must produce evidence that this person is under trial in your country or has been sentenced in your country. That is when you're talking about the red notice. You must produce all the evidence that shows that he's evading justice. There's something wrong that is being done, and this person is outside, has run away. So and also the Interpol also has a self-cleansing process that, okay, it receives your notice, it must scrutinize that notice. Is this really true? Is it, and ensure that it is not being used for political harassment, for religious harassment, or for ethnic harassment.
Let me ask you this, because when he was rearrested, and brought back to Nigeria. A British official did mention categorically that he was not arrested on British soil.
Yes.
If it were to be on the British soil, do you think it would have been possible to get him arrested in Britain, being the fact that just because he's a British citizen?
So that, from my own understanding, I don't think that it would have been as easy as it was now. It may have brought up more legal processes, and I'm even very sure, I do not speak for any of them, but I'm very sure that the agencies of government have been engaging the British government, and the processes must have been tedious, because it's like saying the British government approaches the Nigerian government and says, you have a Nigerian citizen that we want to take to our country.
But one failed, what the Kingsley just said in 1984, one failed, you know.
So,
and
no,
it was
I'm
actually
that is even a Nigerian citizen.
It was Umaru Duku.
Umaru Duku.
That was a kidnap.
More or less.
It was a kidnap, yes. It wasn't. He was snatched from a street in Bayswater in central London, and then ferried to the airport, and then of course
Put in a crater.
Yes, put into a crate, you know, to the cargo hold. I think you had one Israeli or so,
Yes.
you know, others were injecting him to keep him alive and all that. And then, of course, the intelligence, the British intelligence got information as to what was happening. And so that flight was discontinued. But there's another aspect. I mean, that's useful to clarify this for our viewers. The shorty for Nnamdi Kanu was Senator Ainaya Abaribe. And once Nnamdi Kanu jumped bail, of course, if the shorty was called in, he would also have faced the consequences. But now that he has been rearrested, and I know that in the interregnum, there were some partisan calls, you know, for him to face the consequences of not producing the defendant at the time that he was supposed to have appeared in court. But what does that do to him now as a shorty, now that Nnamdi Kanu has been rearrested?
I think even from time, he had already faced the consequences, because he had made a deposit, and once you are not able to produce the suspect or the accused in this matter, you forfeit your bond. So I think that was the instance with him. I'm not being specific.
So
but
if he would the bond be refunded to him?
I think he has, because maybe the bond was what was used to process it.
To process your rearrest.
Yeah, exactly. But in any case, his shorty's hands have been washed off the matter, because the most important thing, the critical thing, is to reproduce the accused for trial. And the accused has been brought forward before the courts to face trial. And there's something you had mentioned, and that is the human rights angle of it. And, you know, when I was concluding on that part, on the Interpol have a duty to ensure that in the conduct of their activities, whether it's Interpol in Nigeria or Interpol in France or Interpol in Russia or where have you, in the conduct of their activities, there's respect for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They must make sure that all the rights of these persons, not one, must be, breached or infringed upon. Because the moment that abuse becomes, preponderant, we're going to now, Interpol loses its substance, and people will start. It becomes a thing that any country can use Interpol to achieve whatever grievance they have with any individual. So Interpol must also do its own due diligence on your application. Is this a random?
Toby, yes, thanks. I mean, there's something, because there was no advance notice of the information of the rearrest of Nnamdi Kanu. And watching the Attorney General of the Federation, it just seemed like one of those things, big story, but just one of those things. There was no parade of the rearrested suspect, because he's already facing trial. The thing to do is going to reappear in court, and it was taken straight to court. There seemed to have been no drama. There were no optics around all of this to make it just say, look, you are facing due process of law.
I think that's the message. It's the due process thing. We're not here to let me put it in two ways.
To dramatize.
We're not here to dramatize. That's the word. But let me put it in two ways. One, the first is the fact that this was a message, and I encourage the prosecuting agencies to understand and appreciate the role of the media in fighting crime. You see, if Nnamdi Kanu was prosecuted and nobody knew about it, it will not be a notice to other criminals that if in the event that they are in breach of anything of the law, that they will face justice.
Shortly before we go, just take this question.
Yes.
Will his arrest cripple the activities of ESN which he has formed and being accused of being responsible for burning down federal government infrastructure?
I would say that the activities of ESN have already been crippled in the last 2 weeks. And this would deal more or less a final blow on it. And what we are going to now see, and I believe that the intelligence and security agencies will do, is to wrap up and clear the field.
I don't know. Well, thanks a lot, Toby. I was going to say that, I mean, some observers will also see a difference between Nnamdi Kanu and Rafu Wazuruke of Masob, which had been in existence earlier than IPOB. And Wazuruke is a free man. I mean, that's...
well, Raf's methods were not Nnamdi Kanu's methods.
Precisely, that's the point.
Absolutely.
That's right. All right, Johannes Toby Wujola, a lawyer, would like to thank you for being with us on
It's
Good
my
Morning
pleasure.
Nigeria today. I regret that Major Gabriel Adofiku was unable to continue his interaction with us. We introduced him, and unfortunately his Zoom connection failed. But some other occasion we will, of course, have the benefit of his contribution to whatever subject matter related to his expertise that we'll be discussing. So that's it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for tuning in. The program returns tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Until then, do take care of yourself. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umai. Do have a wonderful day.